The Midnight Hour. Chapter 1. The Whisper in the Dark. Lena was a quiet, thoughtful young woman who had always felt different from those around her. Living in a small town tucked away between thick forests, she was accustomed to the isolation. But something had been happening recently. At exactly midnight, she began to hear whispers that she couldn't explain, soft voices calling her name from the shadows. The town, however, had a long history of strange occurrences at the midnight hour, and most people believed it was nothing more than superstition. But Lena knew better. The whispers were real. One evening, as the clock struck midnight, Lena decided to follow the sound. She ventured deep into the woods, heart pounding, following the eerie voice that seemed to beckon her. After what felt like hours, she came across an abandoned mansion she had never seen before, its silhouette stark against the moonlit sky. The whispers led her to its entrance, where the door creaked open as if it were waiting for her. Chapter 2. The Mansion's Secret. Inside the mansion, the air was thick with dust, and the furniture was shrouded in white sheets. The silence was suffocating, and yet the whispers continued, growing louder. Lena followed the voice deeper into the house, her curiosity overcoming her fear. She discovered an old staircase that descended into the darkness below. The voice was clearer now, almost familiar. But before she could take another step, a cold hand brushed against her shoulder. Spinning around, Lena came face to face with an old woman, her face pale and wrinkled, her eyes sunken with years of sorrow. The woman smiled, though it was not a comforting smile. "You've come at last," she whispered. Lena was frozen in place, unsure whether to run or ask questions. The woman introduced herself as Clara, the mansion's caretaker, and explained that the mansion had a curse. Anyone who entered after midnight would be trapped there forever. Chapter 3. The Curse Unveiled. Clara led Lena into a dimly lit room, its walls lined with portraits of past inhabitants, men and women who had long since disappeared. The old woman told Lena the story of the mansion's dark past. Centuries ago, it was the home of the Blackwell family, notorious for their involvement in dark rituals meant to summon spirits from beyond. The rituals, however, had gone horribly wrong. Instead of summoning peace, they unleashed an ancient evil that would haunt the mansion forever. The spirits of the Blackwell family still roamed the halls, and every night at midnight, they tried to drag new souls into their world. Lena realized with a chill that the whispers had been trying to warn her. But it was too late. She was already ensnared by the curse. Chapter 4. The Midnight Hour. Clara explained that the only way to break The curse was to complete the ritual the Blackwell family had begun, but this required finding the lost key to the mansion's hidden vault. The vault contained a powerful artifact that could banish the evil once and for all. Lena had no choice but to agree to Clara's plan, though she had no idea where to start. As the night deepened, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to move on their own. Strange noises echoed through the mansion, like footsteps and faint cries. Lena felt as though she were being watched from every corner, but there was no turning back. She and Clara searched through the mansion, going from room to room, finding nothing but old books, dusty antiques, and more unsettling portraits. Chapter 5: The Hidden Room. After hours of searching, Lena stumbled upon a hidden door behind a large bookshelf. She pushed the shelf aside, revealing a narrow staircase that led down into a forgotten chamber. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and a sense of foreboding washed over Lena as she descended. The room below was unlike anything she had seen before, filled with strange symbols etched into the stone walls and a large, ornate chest in the center. Clara's eyes widened as she recognized the symbols. They were part of the ritual that had been attempted long ago. At the heart of the chest lay the key to the vault, but as Clara reached for it, a cold, malevolent presence filled the room. The Blackwell family's spirits had awakened. Chapter 6: The Spirits of the Past. The spirits of the Blackwell family emerged from the shadows, their forms shifting and flickering between life and death. They were angry, cursed souls who had been trapped in the mansion for centuries. Their hollow eyes fixed on Lena and Clara, and the whispers grew louder, now filled with rage. Clara warned Lena to stay calm. The spirits could only be defeated by invoking their original ritual, but to do so would require them to perform the chant together, a chant that had been lost to time. As the spirits grew closer, Lena's heart raced. She had no idea if the ritual would even work, or if it would only make things worse. Chapter 7: The Ritual of the Blackwell Family. Clara began chanting in an ancient language, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Lena, though unsure of the words, repeated them in a soft whisper. The spirits recoiled, their forms flickering like candle flames. The room grew darker as the shadows seemed to swallow everything in their path. The temperature plummeted, and Lena could see her breath hanging in the air. Suddenly, the chest opened on its own, revealing a dark, pulsing gem. Clara reached for it, her hands trembling. As soon as she touched it, the spirits screamed, and the mansion shook violently. The shadows seemed to come alive, twisting and writhing like living creatures. Chapter 8, The Price of Freedom. With a final scream, Clara thrust the gem into the air, and the mansion erupted in a blinding light. The spirits held one last time before being sucked into the gem, their tortured souls bound for eternity. The darkness receded, and the mansion fell silent. Lena felt herself being lifted off her feet, as if the very air around her was alive. When the light faded, Lena found herself standing outside the mansion, the first rays of dawn breaking through the trees. Clara was gone, and the mansion behind her had vanished completely, as if it had never existed. Chapter 9, The Aftermath. Lena returned to the town, though things were never quite the same. She had broken the curse, but in doing so had unleashed a deeper understanding of the supernatural world. The whispers no longer followed her, but the memories of that night lingered in her mind, forever haunting her. Though the mansion was gone, Lena knew that there were other places in the world where the boundary between the living and the dead was thin. And somewhere out there, in the darkest corners of the world, other dark rituals were still being performed. The midnight hour was far from over. Chapter 10, The Return of the Midnight hour. Years passed, and Lena moved far from the town that had once been her home. She tried to live a normal life, but the memories of that night never faded. One evening, as the clock struck midnight, she heard the faintest whisper her name, carried on the wind. The midnight hour had returned. Thanks for watching.